And are you in a real RV there in Montana, John, or where are you?
No, I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm,
Okay.
yeah, just wishing it
Okay.
was out
Well,
on the road.
okay. Well, welcome to John from Montana. And John, we'll let you take it away and talk all about cybersecurity.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much for inviting me and giving me a chance to present. If we go to the next slide.
Oops.
Oops.
Well, I guess you may have to. I guess you're gonna have to switch it over to. For some reason, I guess they didn't get in there, Moss. Maybe just switch it over to John and let John share.
Just a moment. I'm spotlighting John. Okay, you're spotlighted. You should be able to share. Let me know if you can.
Okay.
All right. Well,
can you can see my slide
there? I hope it works.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks for setting me up, Moss. So yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about the kind of the combination of things we're going into as the industry's matured more. What we think of as quality, I think, touches more areas. I come from a background of working in security. I've been at several startups and some more mature organizations. And you know, security's been around for a long time, but there's still no shortage of people trying to do bad things. And I want to give a shout out. I thought this group has had some great talks that are out there. So the session I looked up on YouTube, these were a couple that I thought were very good on security, and wanted to mention those, building, you know, standing on the shoulders of others. And here's what a day is like for me at a CyberInc. And this is actually hot off the press this week. You know, unfortunately, you may see some of these things every week. And the first thing I wanted to point out about it is that, you know, all of us click on things, and sometimes they're bad things. So I've done it. I've clicked on a link and realized, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? Or it was very cleverly disguised, and I didn't realize until after it was done that it took me to a place where I didn't want to go. The second point is that toward the bottom of the quote there is that this was on a fully patched system. So these are actually people that work at Google. Their systems, they happen to run on Windows and use the Chrome browser, but they're, you know, up to date. They you know, they have a huge amount of money to spend on making sure that their systems are secure. So it wasn't like they just forgot to do something. And finally, the third point I wanted to mention is that the people being attacked are the most educated people, should be the most prepared people in terms of being aware of what can happen. These are security researchers at Google. This is what these people do for a life. It's not a part-time job or something that we hope they do when they have time. So there are, unfortunately, bad people out there, whether individuals or nation states that are out trying to attack these people and take advantage of them. And it works. It works. It's really unfortunate, but we don't know every vulnerability in the system and what's going on. So with that perspective, I kind of wondered why every system isn't secure by design, right? Why do we make security hard for people to work with? I imagine there's a few of us that have wanted to throw a machine through the window, or turned off the security, or, you know, not use what we're supposed to because it slows us down and we're not productive. And another thing that's come up with is that we're all tied together. We're all in this supply chain of different software components. So when we look at how these things have become interwoven, I wanted to go into a little bit about the ramifications of that. Now, security is unfortunately often been an afterthought, and that's a disaster. So I'm going to give one example, and it goes back to kind of the foundation of the internet. It was designed on an open trust model, not a zero trust model that's become in vogue today. And what that means is that it was fantastic for researchers, people in academics to share things, but it became a whole situation where once it moved out of that environment, security just wasn't there, and it's really very difficult to add that on, or impossible to add on afterwards. But at that time, when the ARPANET project was going on and we were trying to make sure we had a network that would withstand a nuclear attack from the Soviet Union, when they were just about ready to roll that out, Willis Ware, an engineer on the project, wrote a paper about the things that can happen when you centralize data and share things. And as you might have run into when you're on a dev team, when you get new requirements, scope creep comes in. It can be really annoying. You've done the best on what was given to you, the requirements, and now they've moved the goalposts on you. So that team begged their leaders not to saddle them with a new security requirement. And pretty much everybody said, well, you know what, this is such important work and it was so hard to do. And, you know, security probably won't be a problem for a long time because the Russians aren't going to be able to match it. Let's go ahead. Well, several decades later, after all these systems had built up without any provisions for security, we found out that there was a big problem, right? It's very difficult to backfit security. And by the way, the Russians did catch up. So, you know, when you look at this and think about it, it's like, you know, if your mindset is get this thing working and then secure it later, it's going to be a problem, okay? I just picked 3 systems that I think we all are pretty familiar with. I mean, email's been around for something like 50 years now, and we still have, it's still one of the most popular ways to attack people through phishing and all sorts of other things. Microsoft Windows. I worked at McAfee for several years. They had a big development team in Beaverton, just outside of Portland there. And the sales guys used to suggest that we put up a statue of Bill Gates outside the building because we wanted to thank him for all the security business we got because Windows wasn't designed with security in mind. And then finally, how about the web browser? You know, what a fantastic innovation. People could share all sorts of things, HTML files, and researchers. I mean, it's just a tremendous breakthrough, and yet there was no security designed into it. And I kind of joke, but it really is true. If the Greeks were creating the Trojan horse today, it would be a web browser. It's like leaving your front door open. We let everything come in through the web browser, and in fact, most organizations, people can install additional web browsers without any special permission. Anyway, those different files, code, whatever comes in, and then it's a scramble to catch them before any problems, before they can take effect. Imagine if we did that with our homes. We left the front door open, and then we counted on our home security system to catch things after they were in the house. And by the way, that's what we're trying to do at CyberInc, is to protect people who are using the browser. So when those Google researchers click on something that's bad, they're not harmed because we actually move the browser up into the cloud, into a remote system. So whatever takes place happens up there on our system, not on your local endpoint there. Another thing that's come up with is that because security wasn't built in, there are a lot of third-party tools developed to detect malware. You know, I mentioned people like McAfee, Symantec. There's so many that are out there trying to catch things, but that's just not enough. It's not good enough to do that. What we need to be thinking in quality is to think about what an attacker is going to do. So I call this think evil, do good. So just like if somebody's trying to break into your house, you know, what are the kind of things we need to protect and make sure that they can't get in there. So penetration is a great place to start, to make sure if you have for example, a system that's up on the internet, that you're there. And, you know, a couple of great quotes here. Vint Cerf, who was at the beginning of the internet and still active, you know, says, hey, we just didn't think that way. We were a bunch of engineers and researchers trying to do really good things. And I love this from the historian at Virginia Tech, that, you know, making the analogy that safe SERP is like this safe sex that you need to protect yourself. It's just, you can't count on somebody else doing it for you. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't know that. They don't realize what they have to do and stuff, so a lot there. The other one I wanted to throw into here to combine it with these other two is that usable cybersecurity is really key. You can have great security. You could lock every user in a lead line vault and have no networking connection, but of course that's not going to be very productive, right? So the gold standard is when you add security that you can, the users can keep doing what they did before the security was installed. So we work a lot with the browser and making sure that there's no change to the user behavior. There's no latency. This is really hard when you add additional security in. And key is that we don't block users from getting their stuff done. And you can see the last line there that, ultimately the user wants security that should be automatic and something they don't notice. It's just there for them, keeping them safe. Kind of like today we get in a car and we don't think twice about, putting on our seatbelt, having airbags, having anti-lock brakes. The last one I'll finish up with is that there's a fairly high profile attack, and I'm mentioning it because when we think about quality, sometimes the things that come in and we use to build our systems are really, really important. So there's a company called SolarWinds. They have a monitoring system that many organizations, large government organizations, commercial organizations put on, and basically it monitors everything that's going on out there. So it has admin rights. And someone figured out how to get into solar systems, into their build system, and they created, basically they installed malicious code into SolarWinds product called Orion. So whenever it goes out now, it's got a hidden payload with it, and it will let these, we think it's the Russians, actually monitor wherever it's installed out there. So again, they hacked one place, SolarWinds. SolarWinds has thousands of customers. Every customer getting an update from them, a patch, whatever, gets this malicious code out here. And here's the thing that's absolutely crazy about it. The initial attack or getting into SolarWinds was done in September 2019, and the attack went out in February 2020, and it was only identified in December. So the first of all the security companies and everybody else that's out there looking for this only found out about it 15 months later. So, you need to be looking at this to see what's going on. As an example, when I worked at McAfee, the guys in Beaverton were great about running a what they called a soak test. So they took all the different scanners, antivirus scanners they could get, their own plus from many other competitors and partners, and ran those on their code before they would send it out to their customers. So here's the takeaway. Attackers are financially motivated, innovative, and persistent. They're going to be around forever. They're making money off of this. And the tools that we use for good, for software development, for quality assurance, they use for evil. So you need to think about how all these things fit together: cybersecurity, the user experience the users have, and the software quality, so that security doesn't become an island. The users don't bypass the good work that you've done. And ultimately, when you're checking for quality on it, you're coming from this mindset that none of us is brought up with, but we've got to be thinking like an attacker, thinking evil, but doing the good thing to make sure our customers don't get hit. Thank you.
Yeah, great, John. Thanks. So what a great talk, John. I forgot. What a terrible host I am. I forgot that we would like people to ask questions, and one of the questions I have, John, is that, if you put the browser up in the cloud, doesn't that have performance issues? Don't you start, does that affect performance?
It does. The key is to minimize that. So as you know, a browser is already, going from your local system out to different internet resources. And the system we put it on in the cloud is very powerful compared to your local system. So when that browser is running remotely, it's there. We have a very big network pipe, and then we try to optimize things. So it's not perfect. We're getting better, but we're trying to do that. And in some cases, we're just sending, pixels down. The whole software code and things don't have to be rendered locally on the browser that's on there. And in other cases, we're trying to just send down the stuff that that matters on there. But it's definitely there. We're trying to make it imperceptible, on there, and hopefully we gain some time by putting it up on a really, really fast system, and it's not too painful that people don't think it's worth being safe by going there instead of just, you know, opening things up.
Yeah, I
It's a
just
great
one
question.
more. Yeah, one more silly question is that has there ever been found any connection between people that do the hacking and Wall Street? And the reason I say that is because if you think about Equifax and SWI, what was it? Southwind, the winds, SolarWinds.
SolarWinds, yeah,
Yeah, their stock just went down in the tank when they had these events, and of course they always come back. And has there been ever a connection between Wall Street and the hackers?
Yeah, there's definitely suspicions that that's going on, that people are, you know, trying to get a position. You know, it looked like there were some obvious missed opportunities to do that with the Twitter hack a few months ago, when people were had access to accounts like Elon Musk. You know, if they'd put out something, you know, he's so influential, they could have definitely steered stock one way or the other. We've seen that some of the cases with the Russians and others, they're trying to do things and stay covert. So if you think about the Enigma machine in World War II, once the British cracked the code, they didn't want the Germans, the Nazis, to know that they had cracked it. So sometimes they stay low and keep doing their stuff there. So in some of these cases, they're trying to, you know, get information about influencing elections or things like that, and they don't want to let on that they have it. But yeah, I would definitely say that people look at that, and ultimately, I think the biggest one that's come out has been ransomware, and a lot of that is Phil, is because people can make anonymous payments, so they don't feel like they're going to get caught. Whereas if they influence stock trades, you know, the Wall Street guys are pretty good at tracking who made those trades and stuff on there. So, you know, it might be a little less effort for them to just get somebody to pay ransomware than it is to go out and do the trades and not get caught.
Right, right. Great. Does anybody else have questions for John?
I don't have a question, but I did definitely want to say one of the points that resonated with me is the fact you mentioned that make security hard and people work around it. It's so true, because you say, hey, make a complex password that has uppercase, lowercase, blah, blah, blah letters, and people just keep rotating the same password, change one number over and over. And that's found to be detrimental, right? So the longer your password, it doesn't have to be complex. It's just the length of the password that matters, right? The longer your password is, the more time it takes to hack it. So which is what, so that was a great point, and that just resonated with me. I just wanted to say.
Great, thank you. Is Amy, are you still there? We see your picture, but I don't see you. No, I guess not. Well, I have a question for Amy, but maybe somebody can answer it in lieu of Amy. You know, Amy talked about how important it is to have the people that produce the quality software. You have to have quality people, right? And I was wondering how that affects the recruiting, and what kinds of people do you look for? How can you discern out those types of characteristics to find those quality people? What do you look for? Does anybody have any thoughts on that? I mean,
this is Ying, and I work with Amy pretty closely in our work. You can say I'm Amy's counterparty on the government side, and when it comes to ensuring that we have good alignment between staff and kind of the broader, greater objective of an organization, we of course pay a lot of attention to you know, a range of matters. And I would say technical skills, of course, is an important aspect of things. And our PNSQC conference historically, of course, focused a lot on practical technical skills. But I would say, especially for organization with higher mission, whether it's government, nonprofits, and I'm sure many private organizations as well, for profit or nonprofit, it is very important to assess, you know, what folks want out of their career, what they want to do, kind of longer range as well as the immediate range. You know, of course, we all want job for a salary, most of us, but I think it's inevitable that we have to associate quality with a kind of community of meaning, and that's a paper that my colleague Jack and I put together last year, is to really understand for each organization their unique and special meaning of quality, and to which there is necessarily a component that is of the type that Amy talks about, that are more philosophical, intangible. And I think the more we serve the public and the more we work with folks that deal with software that really serves every facet of society, really increasingly software, make sure planes don't fall out of the sky, needy people are served, people are educated, elderly receive their care. So I think we need to focus very much when it comes to quality on those intangibles that are specific to different organizations.
Great, thanks very much.